There are moments in time where you're meant to meet somebody or you're meant to connect with somebody. So from that perspective, you might say, well, it is really important whether or not I go to this thing or see this person or do this particular event. But that's from your perspective, from your limited perspective of, well, if I have this one chance to meet this one person, if I don't go to this one thing, then I will miss out on meeting this person. And that is a statement that is absolutely incorrect. You will always have multiple chances to meet a person that you are meant to meet, especially somebody who is in your soul family, especially somebody who is soul contracted to have an experience with you. I would like to invite you to an extraordinary journey to your intuition. This is a 3-day in-person immersive experience with myself and Angie Decanales. Basically, we want you to forget everything that you know about psychic abilities and let yourself be surprised. Some of the benefits to this workshop is that you can gain more confidence in your intuition, you can be more assertive in your life, draw healthy boundaries, make conscious choices, and find creative solutions to the challenges of your day-to-day life. One of the things that is really important on this journey is to be able to connect in with other people in person. Over the internet is great as well, but in person is better. We can really spend the time together. We can cultivate a beautiful energy together. And every group that's going to come together for these workshops is going to have its own unique resonance. And we're going to explore all kinds of things like mediumship and channeling and automatic writing. We're going to take a look at the Akashic records, quantum hypnosis. You're going to experience light codes in light language, sound healing, and breath work. There are going to be all kinds of wonderful things that you're going to experience over these 3 days. If you are in Europe, or maybe you want to use this as an excuse to take a little vacation, the extraordinary journey to your intuition is taking place in Paris, January 26th, 27th, and 28th, 2024. If you are in London, Angie and I will be there February 23rd, 24th, and 25th of 2024. And then the third set of dates for the first half of 2024 is in Amsterdam, May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd. If you would like more information, please head to my website at infinitesoullove.com/store. You will see all of the information and all of the details there. Looking forward to all of you beautiful souls joining us for this extraordinary experience. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you have had an amazing week. And even if you hadn't, if you are taking that time to really care for yourself, get the rest you need, go within, that is also a really good week, right? If you missed the live stream that happened yesterday with Angie Decanales and I, feel free to go back to my YouTube channel and go into the live feed, and the recording is right there. It's talking about what might be blocking your intuition and how to really discover your intuition and what your psychic gifts are. And so it's just a little taste, a little teaser, if you will, of some of the things that are to come in the upcoming workshops that Angie and I are doing together. So feel free to check that out if you're guided. And also, I will be closing the opportunity to get a session and be on the podcast by the end of December. So if you want to be on the podcast, if you want to have your Akashic record session aired on the podcast, the new show, which is called The Akashic Recordings, then feel free to head to my website, book a session. And when you go through the process of booking, it will ask you if you are willing to have your session recorded for the podcast. And all you have to do is click yes. And that is it. So thank you to all of you who have already participated. It's been really, really beautiful to follow the journeys and then to be able to share this with the world. That new show will be premiering at the end of January. beginning of February, somewhere around there. We don't have a solid date yet, but I will keep you posted when we do. Today, I want to talk a little bit about guidance and mishaps and if those mishaps are guided. So the reason why this came up for me this week is because I had a session with a client and she and I had gone back and forth on email as to the time. Now, some of you know that France, we have daylight savings time 2 weeks before the US. And so sometimes that can be a bit challenging in that 2-week period because all the times go wonky. Every year I scramble and try to figure out what times were messed up based on that and everything. Yeah, just the schedule gets a little crazy. So this client of mine and I were going back and forth on the times. And so we had agreed upon a time and that was it. Somehow I put it in my calendar wrong. And, you know, it's not to say that that doesn't happen sometimes because it does. But I put it in for the original time, not the time that we had agreed upon. And so when I wrote to her the day of the session, I basically said, oh, you know, speak to you in a couple of hours. Here's your link. And she wrote back and she's like, oh, I thought we were starting at such and such time. And I said, oh. And I looked back in the emails and I was like, oh, wow, she's right. Yeah. So I scrambled and I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm available now if you would like to start the session now. And at least we're going to get in a little bit extra early from the time that I had originally had on my calendar. And she wrote to me and said, well, unless there's a reason why the universe is sort of orchestrating it this way. And so what did I do? I checked in with my guides, of course, as usual. And I asked my guides if there was any reason why this particular client needed to have this session at a particular time that day. And the guide said, nope, no reason that she needs that. I'm like, okay, great. This is where asking the right questions makes all the difference in the world. So we start an hour early from what I had in my calendar. This is actually one of the sessions that I was recording for the podcast. You know, I'm set up in my little home studio. I've got my, you know, microphone all hooked up. I've got everything all set up. Some of you may know that the neighbors upstairs have been doing construction for the last couple of months. And so occasionally you'll hear pounding and drilling and all kinds of things. So, so basically we first got on the call and then she was having sound issues. And then I was having sound issues and connection issues. And so we had to like start over. So then that pushed us another like 15, 20 minutes. And then finally, when we were able to get all the things ready, we started the session. Within 5 minutes of me starting the session, the pounding and drilling upstairs started. And I was just sort of laughing internally because I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. Well, this is happening now. Okay. So, you know, we pushed through, did the session, and wouldn't you know, the drilling and pounding stopped at exactly the time that I had originally on my calendar. So had I just gone with the original time, then there wouldn't be all of this extra noise in the background. Now, it's not a big deal. There are tons of filters in Adobe programs that can get rid of the background noise, things like that. And for those of you who are going to be listening to the new show, when you get to this episode, you'll know because some of it I won't be able to get rid of. Sometimes some of it is just going to be there. When you hear that, you'll know the backstory. You'll know why that happened. After we got done with the session, I basically spoke to her and I said, you know, it's really, really funny that this happened because, you know, I had checked in with my guidance regarding you and the right time for you, but I didn't bother to ask, is it the right time for me? And that is a really good lesson that we can learn because oftentimes we are outward focused. We are outward focused on somebody else's experience, how other people are experiencing. Now, of course, that makes a whole lot of sense because of what I do. Of course, I'm more connected to what is best for my clients and that sort of thing. So that's sort of a typical thing when you do what I do. But I do have to balance that out with checking in with what is best for me. I'm going to actually chat with the guides today about the subject of things being sort of rescheduled, misdirected, redirected, put into a different space, and why that happens, and how we know when to sort of just go with the flow of what is happening versus actually backtracking and course correcting, right? Because sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes course correcting is necessary. But do we course correct by backtracking and saying, oh, okay, I need to make up for this, or I need to change something in order to make this right? Or do you just continue to move forward and course correct on the way? And a lot of this will make a lot more sense, I think, when we get the channeled message from my guides. But there are a lot of times when these types of things come up and we just push and push and push and push to try to fix things or, correct things in some way when we don't need to. When in fact, everything that is unfolding before you is exactly how it needs to unfold. I'm going to dive into the channel and I'm going to ask my guides a little information about what to do when everything that seemingly is going wrong, but it turns out that it is actually going exactly right. On the subject matter of how to move forward in your life in the flow while having the ability to co-create with your higher self, with your guides, with the universe. It is a delicate balance. There are times when you will just move forward in your journey, and we, your guides, or the universe, will allow you to fall. Those are the times when we need you to learn a particular lesson, or that you have signed up to learn a particular lesson. You will know when that happens because those particular lessons often repeat themselves over and over and over again. Maybe the lesson that is needing to be learned is to ask for help. To ask for help from your spirit guides, from your angels, from your team. Because when you ask us for help, this is how this course correction can happen. Had Annette actually not asked for help that day, which she did, we wouldn't have course corrected in that way. The day that she made the appointment, not the day that the actual session happened, but the day that she made the appointment, she had asked for help. Now, you might ask, how is it that several weeks ahead of time we knew that there would be construction going on at that exact time in that exact place? And the answer is, we don't 100% know, because of the free will of every human on this planet. But we can work from the standpoint of probability. Based on the trajectory of the current timeline, the probability of this happening at this exact time in this exact place are 95%. Had the construction not happened at that exact time for Annette and for her client, it wouldn't have made a difference one way or another if the session was at that time or not. And that's oftentimes what happens. So we will guide you to a space where there is, let's say, wiggle room on either side of a particular event. So if a particular event does not happen, then it's not going to affect your life one way or another. But if it does happen and you're in that space, it's going to be a more optimal time or a more optimal place for you to be. So the first thing that comes with this is the asking for help. If you do not ask us for help, we are not able to come to your aid. Now, if you don't ask us for help, does that mean that you don't get the help? Not necessarily, because you're still connected to your higher self. Your higher self, your soul, is still connected to us. So we can disseminate that information to your higher self, but it's a matter of whether or not you are listening to your higher self. If you are not listening, then you might not get the messages. You may not get the information. And then whatever is orchestrated by you, by your free will, and things are going to unfold the way that they're going to unfold. Now, oftentimes, many of you are connected to your intuition without even realizing that you are. You are making decisions based on your intuition. You're making decisions based on what your higher self is telling you to do, based on the information that your higher self has. And these are things that happen on a regular basis without your knowledge. The important part is, now that you're in a space of knowing, of awakening, of evolving, that's where the power comes in. Because now you're able to listen. Now you're able to tune in. Now you're able to ask your guides for help, thereby making your co-creative experience a much smoother one. Now, in this particular instance, was it detrimental for this to happen for Annette with the podcast recording? Absolutely not. It was just a mere annoyance to have this noise during this recording that she was doing. It wasn't anything having to do with soul contracts or really important trajectories in the flow of her life, but it is something small that can show you the process of the unfolding. And this is what we like to do with all of you. We like to show you these things in small ways first, because it is the multiple small ways that you can see the proof or see the truth in what is happening that allows you to have the faith that the larger things will also happen as well. So when you ask for help regarding a larger thing, let's say a job, more abundance, a relationship, those things can take a bit longer to orchestrate and land and ground into your 3D world. So you're not going to get that instant gratification as you would with something smaller, like just the timing of a particular appointment. So this is how you exercise those skills. And it's not to say that you're going to be perfect every time. Normally, Annette is very good about asking the well-rounded questions. She will ask about the situation at hand. She will ask if it's in her highest good. She will ask if it is in her highest timeline. She will ask all of the questions surrounding it so she can get a more well-rounded answer. And we recommend you do this on a regular basis for things that are really important for you. For things that aren't necessarily important, you can simply just let go. And after you've asked for your help, you can let go and allow us, the universe, and the flow of your life to just unfold for you. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to really try to tune in for every little last decision that you are making. Doesn't matter ultimately when it comes to what you're purchasing on a day-to-day basis, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, if you're seeing this friend or that friend, if you're going out to this place or that place. Not necessarily. Now, there are moments in time where you're meant to meet somebody or you're meant to connect with somebody. So from that perspective, you might say, well, it is really important whether or not I go to this thing or see this person or do this particular event. But that's from your perspective, from your limited perspective of, well, if I have this one chance to meet this one person, if I don't go to this one thing, then I will miss out on meeting this person. And that is a statement that is absolutely incorrect. You will always have multiple chances to meet a person that you are meant to meet, especially somebody who is in your soul family, especially somebody who is soul contracted to have an experience with you. If you can imagine, the universe is constantly pulling you together. So if you make a decision where you're not going to go out and do something and you're going to miss meeting a particular person, it's okay. You're going to meet them in another way. It will eventually happen. A lot of times, a lot of you get really stuck on the absolutes of, if I miss this one thing, then that's it. I will regret it forever, or I will miss this thing forever. And that is just simply not true. Oftentimes on your planet, you say, if something is meant for you, it will come for you. And that is absolutely true. If something is meant to come into your life, it has to come into your life. There is no choice. You are contracted to do so. It's just the matter of when. It's just the timing of it. Now, from this perspective, I'm picking up some thoughts in Annette's brain at this moment where she is saying, but what about soul contracts that are not fulfilled? What about those types of things that are not fulfilled? And I will answer that question in a moment. First, I want to address the fact that many of you have doubts. You have doubts that any of this is really true, that when things are meant for you, they will come for you. When things are meant for you, they will happen regardless. You doubt this. The problem is in the thought form of what you think is meant for you. That's the problem. Because oftentimes you will think that something is meant for you when it's not. So you think that something is meant for you, but it keeps on eluding you. If it keeps on eluding you, then that might mean that it is either A, not the right time, or that particular situation is not meant for you. It could also be an echo of a past lifetime, which is why you might think that you're meant to be together, or that you're meant to meet this person, or that you're meant to have this job, or you're meant to have this talent or this success. But maybe it's an echo from a past lifetime. And that needs to be let go of in order for you to step into the new timeline. And you might ask, well, how do I know the difference of whether or not something is meant for me or something isn't? The answer is you don't. Not unless you go into the Akashic records with somebody like Annette. However, that also being said, if you are not meant to know, if it is not in your highest good to know, you will not know that information either. We will not give that information to any Akashic reader if it is not something that is in your highest good to know. So pay attention to your expectations of what you think is meant for you, and then allow that to be released. Allow it to let go. This is where that letting go portion of manifestation is super important, because whether or not you get what you think you want, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. And you might say, yes, of course it matters. Well, if you look at it from the standpoint of that is the only thing that you want and that is the only thing that you will ever be happy with getting, then sure, that could be a problem for you. But if you expand your viewpoint and say, this is something that I really truly want, and I am open to the universe giving that to me, or something even better than I could have ever possibly thought of. When you look at it from that perspective, it is a win-win for you no matter what. So either you get the thing that you really, really want that you're focusing on, or you get something better. But if you're hyper-focused on one particular thing, when this thing that comes in that's even better, you're not going to notice that it's better because you're still focused on that other thing. So it's not going to come to you until you're ready to align with it. This is how this paradox often works. And it makes no sense to the logical brain, but that's okay because it's not the logical brain that needs to understand it. Your soul understands it. Your soul understands all of the laws of the universe and how they work. So allow your soul to guide you. Allow your guides, your angels, your spirit team to guide you. So I'm going to go back and address what Annette was asking about, which is if it is a soul contract that is not being completed, then from that perspective, you might miss something that you are meant for. This is a really important topic to address because it is very rare that you will not meet the person you need to meet or have the experiences you need to have in order to fulfill a soul contract. When a soul contract is not fulfilled, most of the time it is because one or both of the people or multiples of the people, whoever is involved in the soul contract, have made free will decisions to be off their path. That doesn't mean they're not going to meet. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have experiences together. But what it means is that they're not going to achieve the things that they came here to achieve. An example of this would be if a husband and wife have a soul contract together to get married. And let's say they meet and they date and they hit a rough patch. And maybe that rough patch was what they needed to get through in order to fulfill their soul contract. But then let's say both of them just give up and they don't move through that rough patch. They just decide to give up and say, we're not going to stay together anymore. That could be the end of that journey for them in that lifetime. Or they could potentially have another opportunity later on in life to come back together to work on that again. It is up to them whether or not they do complete that soul contract. Oftentimes, that's what happens when you have divorces in certain lifetimes, because let's say you have a soul contract with a significant other and you weren't accomplishing that soul contract in a previous lifetime. You might get married again in this lifetime, accomplish that soul contract right away, and then maybe you're only married for a year and you get divorced right after that. Sometimes that can be clearing a vow or clearing a soul contract. So that's something that you need to really keep in mind about when you are feeling like, oh, well, what if I miss something? What if the course correction doesn't work? What if I don't pay attention to the course correction? What if I? If you're trying too hard, if you're pushing too hard, if you're trying to course correct too much, if you feel your body in resistance, stop. Stop and allow the flow of the universe to just go. See how it unfolds. You might surprise yourself. Part of what has a hold on that resistance is your own need for control, your own need to control your own life. And I'm here to tell you, you are already in control of your life. Your soul made all these decisions a very, very long time ago. Your soul is the one that's in charge. So listen to it, connect to it, know that it is you. You are integrated with your soul. And the more you pay attention, the more you're going to know what is aligned for you and what isn't. And when it comes to these small situations, these small course corrections, use them as fuel for your faith. Use them as fuel for those moments when you have none. That's what they're there for. They're also there to keep you in a state of higher vibration. Would it have been better throughout Annette's day had she not experienced that construction during the podcast? Sure. She would have been a lot less frustrated. Did it affect her day entirely? No. It created a small, tiny dip in her energy, and then she went right back up where she normally is. And that's the beauty of going through these processes over and over and over again like she has, is that eventually you know how to recover from them very quickly. And that is what is expected. There is nothing further I would like to cover on this topic. You have been listening to Maureen. I am one of Annette's guides. I have recently made myself known to her delight. She is yet unsure of my origins, which I will be sharing with her in the future, but know that I am not of this earth. Okay, thank you, Maureen. When Maureen made herself known to me, she did present herself as a very long, slender figure, like very, very white, light body. I expected some other sort of fancy name or some sort of an interesting, like, otherworldly name. And when she's like, call me Maureen, I was like, what? I thought it was so funny. So it actually gives me a chuckle every single time. And she's telling me that's why she picked it. Okay, great. Thank you. I love that. All right. Yes, that was super, super helpful. So thank you so much, Maureen, for that message. It helped to clarify why we go through some of these things and what we can do to start moving forward without having to control, without having to worry about missing something that is meant for us ultimately. I hope you have an amazing week, and I hope you have a really wonderful Thanksgiving if you are in the United States. I'm sending you tons and tons of love. Until next time. If you are interested in learning more about me and the sessions that I do, feel free to go to my website at infinitesoullove.com. On all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Infinite Soul Love 1111. Hey, and if you feel called, I would love it if you could rate The Heart of You on whatever streaming service you're using, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please take a moment, give it a review. It really does help the channel. Thanks so much.